know who Caitlin Clark is?
I do. I do know. This feels like a TikTok meme, but yeah, okay.
No.
I
So
do know who Caitlin Clark is.
So I now know I have a problem with my feed, with whatever information feed that I'm getting.
Yeah.
Because as of a week ago, I didn't know who Caitlin Clark was, and now I'm ashamed of it.
Don't you subscribe to like college basketball and stuff?
I don't watch a lot of women's college basketball, and
Okay.
shame on me for this, but I don't.
Yeah.
And my wife was talking about Caitlin Clark, and I said, "Who?" And she's like, "Are you an idiot? Like, what is wrong with you?" And then literally in a matter of seconds, because we were watching the NBA All-Star game, if that is such a thing.
I don't even know that that's a game.
And then there's a woman there in an Iowa Hawkeyes uniform, and my wife says, "That's Caitlin Clark." I'm like,
yeah,
you just were talking about Caitlin Clark. And then the next day, it's in Morning Brew, Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
So
you're gonna be a TikTok meme tomorrow, my friend.
Well, no, I'm just saying that somebody has to help me with my informational flow because it's blocked.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 416 for Friday, February 23rd, 2024. I'm already out of breath. All right. And with me, as always, as he always is, my pal, my friend, my colleague, and a guy, well, he won't be a bitch and come to the floor. Mr. Joe Pulizzi, get on in here.
Oh, jeez, you gotta. This is a family show.
No, it is not. It is not a family show. Have you heard it? Have you heard the new Beyonce song?
I love this move
that she's
great. And it's now in hindsight, it seems obvious. Like, why wouldn't Beyonce want to dominate the country charts as well?
Just to show that she can, right?
Just to show that she can, because she's done all the things except get album of the year for Grammys, but she's done everything else. As Jay-Z pointed out at the Grammys, she has not won that award, but she's won 30 some other awards.
Yeah.
But now she's wonderful.
Yeah. First black woman to top the country charts with this song. I mean, and
that's
the
hard
song
to believe too.
It's really, the song is, I mean, I'm a country music fan, and the song is just fun. It's interesting. I have a question for you though.
Oh, geez.
So I'm looking.
I hope I know.
Well, you're part of the young crowd. You're part of the young people crowd. So now when I go look for, and Beyonce is the first time I've seen this, I go look for the music video because I'm a Gen Xer, and so that's what I do. I go look for the music video, and there is a Vivo music video for the thing, but it's a fan-created music video. The only official video that I seem to be able to find is something called a visualizer. Have you heard about this? A music visual, which is basically just a GIF. I mean, it's a repeating video. It takes like 12 seconds, and then it repeats and repeats for the whole song. Is that a thing now, or what am I missing here?
I saw the same thing you did, and I was like, okay, a visualizer is, we don't have our collective stuff together yet to do the video. So we're going to do this, and basically what this visualizer is it's just a little clip of Beyonce over and over and over again while you listen to the
song.
The song. Yeah. So that's what the visualizer is before the teaser, before the trailer.
I see.
Right. But I did she make it? I don't know. Maybe she made it up. I'm sure it's a thing. And by the way, I'm not in, like, I just learned what sus is. Like, I don't know. We had this conversation last episode. Yeah. I'm just catching up. Yeah. I'm just trying to, here, I have something for you. I think we talked about this when we were at the event last week.
Okay.
I didn't know what doom scrolling was.
Well, that's old. That's not Gen Z. That's millennial stuff, right?
So I'm literally I'm starting with the whole Caitlin Clark thing, and now into doom scrolling. I'm concerned that the way that I access information is faulty somehow. I'm doing it wrong.
I think the way you phrased it was that your flow was blocked, and I was going to tell you that there's a pill for that. So you can actually.
I need a prescription.
Yeah.
Actually, I think, I'm going to go on Hims and get a prescription
there you
for
go.
that.
To get you
this is
unblock your
not
flow.
sponsored.
Yeah.
This is not sponsored by Hims.
Yeah.
So I'm not up on the lingo, the kid lingo, if you will. So I'm a bit concerned, but I'm boy, Beyonce. I'm very impressed. Here's what she probably will win album of the year at the Grammys for country album.
When at the next year, you're saying
next year,
right?
Next year, she's setting it up that way. She's setting it up.
If they
even go,
if
they even go, because they as you know,
I don't think
Jay-Z
the whole
got
album
the
is
award
country,
and they
though.
left.
I don't.
Oh, I thought it was like a whole country thing. It's just two country songs.
Think so. I mean, so here's the thing. I'm not a Beyonce fan. Never have been a Beyonce fan. I mean,
shame on you.
Not that I dislike her music. I think she makes great, wonderful music, but I just never have been sort of a follower of it. But this is great. But I believe the album is other things. I think this is sort of an anomaly on the album.
Maybe we should put out
a country album. Yeah, that would.
We actually talked at one time about putting out a marketing album. That was my stupid idea.
Yeah.
And you said, whatever. I think I'll put anything to music.
Yeah,
but
we could do it.
We didn't. Nobody wants this.
We could do it.
Nobody wants it.
By the way, it was great to see you. It was great to see you.
We got to see each other. Social media marketing world. We hung out a little bit. So do you have, okay. We both went to sessions. We got to meet with lots of our friends and wonderful people. So good crowd in San Diego. Do you have a renewed take on what's going on with social media marketing? Do you have any thoughts that just hit you? Any trends? What do you think?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk of. It was interesting because it seemed that the talks that I attended anyway. I mean, there was so much on AI. Of course, AI sort of dominated everything, but beyond that, I saw a lot of talks that were either it was sort of a extreme ends of a spectrum, right? So one end of the spectrum was hacks, shortcuts, algorithm, tweaks, sort of how do you deal with, and a lot on video, a lot of obviously for YouTube, for TikTok, for those kinds of things. And then the other was sort of deeper content, deeper strategy around, that. And then of course, intermixed in that AI. So I felt like what was thankfully, I think, missing was anybody saying you should really move your presence to social media. I think we've finally seen the end of sort of move your presence to social media, build your community, build your audience, there wasn't any of that, right? It was all about promotion, and here's the hacks to get to the top of the algorithm, or deep, thoughtful strategy about content, full stop.
It's almost like if you're a social media marketer in 24, that you've been defeated by the algorithms and the platforms, and you have no rights. And everybody knows this now. And it's like, we've been talking about it forever, obviously. Like, hey, be careful, rented land. Everybody's got it. Even Mike Stelzner in his opening keynote, he was really talking about they moved to have their core asset be their newsletters.
Yeah.
A social media marketing media company is moving everything over to email because of the control, because we want opt-in subscribers, because it leads to behavior change and those types of things we've been discussing. So it's interesting. Now it seems that your involvement in social media properties you need to move it as fast as you can, because tomorrow may be a whole new day and you lose access to everything.
And the perfect example of that, and I know she talked to you because she told me she talked to you, was someone in the crowd who came up to me after my talk and said, hey, I'm a Gen Xer and I have, and she told me this story about how she started this community on Facebook, this Facebook page about Gen Xers and, especially Gen X parents and what they were dealing with as parents.
That's right.
And she said, and I literally turned around one day and it was 440,000 people on my Facebook page. And she's like, I don't know what to do. She's like, I'm just overwhelmed. What do I do next? And, the first word out of my mouth was, email. You've got to start flowing people to an email list. And she started laughing. She goes, that's exactly what your colleague just told me. That's exactly what Joe just told me. And I'm like,
okay, so I'm a little concerned that she came up to me and asked me for advice, but wasn't quite sure. So then she goes to your session.
She knows. She knows. She knows where the
yeah. Well, your presentations are a little bit more mature than mine. Let's just put it that way. That's the nice way to.
Mature.
They're more mature. They are. They're more grounded in adultery. No, wait, no, that's not adulting.
Right. They're older. Is what you're suggesting? Is that they're
older. No. Hey, your presentations are always so much better designed than mine. It's like
okay. So on that score, can we just talk about Andrew Davis for a second here? I mean, that's
by the way, Andrew Davis will be
good.
Andrew Davis, who will be our opening keynote at Content Entrepreneur Expo.
Yeah,
and he's doing this digital doppelganger speech, which so you and I have been professional speakers for 15, 20 years. We've been doing this.
I don't know about professional, but yeah, speakers for sure. Yeah,
we get paid for it on occasion.
On an
occasion, we get paid pretty well.
That's right.
Sometimes we don't, but so we are. I would consider ourselves professional speakers in some manner. We aren't even in the same ballpark as Andrew Davis.
Oh yeah,
So just to give you an idea of behind the scenes, my wife and I, we did a walk in the morning and we went and got coffee and we were walking down the hall, and this is early morning, San Diego. He's, and Drew's on East Coast time as well, like us. And Drew is in the corner. He's got his note cards down. He's going through his presentation, this presentation that he's done 100 times.
Yeah.
He's still working on it, and everyone is different, and he's meticulous. And I'm just amazed to see that kind of dedication to an art and a profession like Drew Davis.
The way that he uses visuals in a very text heavy, because it's all about AI and about prompting and about getting text back and the jokes that are in there. So it's very text heavy, but he makes it work so beautifully on the screen. You never like squinting. You're never like, now the slides would be useless, right? The slides that you would get from that would be useless. So as a session talk, it wouldn't be that great, but as a keynote, it is chef's kiss good.
So if you're ever looking for a keynote speaker, I highly recommend Andrew Davis.
He's the guy.
So, and then speaking of CEX and Content Entrepreneur Expo, you and I have been talking for a while that we're doing that. We have the opening kickoff to CEX, and that we're going to do This Old Marketing live. And even you didn't know who the guest was because we're announcing this. This is big news.
Yeah.
So here's how we're going to do it. We want one or two of our listeners to be our guest at CEX. We really want this to happen. So if you ever wanted to be a part of this show, and by the way, you all should know, we don't have guests. We don't.
Right. We've had two in the entirety of the run of the show.
It's sort of been accidental. But so and those have been live shows. So here's what we're going to do. If you go and register and sign up at CEX, Content Entrepreneur Expo, May 5th through 7th, Cleveland, Ohio, and you use the coupon code TOM100. It stands for This Old Marketing. TOM100. First of all, you save $100 off at cex.events. Save $100. And if you use that code, and you have to use that code to get in, once you do that, you'll be in the drawing, and you will have a chance to be our guest. So we want to make sure you do that. That sign up goes until the end of March. So you have 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. It's end of March. Make sure so we don't do math.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So use the coupon code TOM100. You get $100 off. So that's our gift as part of that. But also I thought this was a cool idea. Do you like this idea? I think it's cool.
I think
it's have our listeners on.
I think this is going to go one of two ways. This is going to be an amazing thing, or it's going to be a train wreck. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah,
I don't know. What's your money on? No, we won't say that. It's going to be. But I know a lot of you have been reaching out to us a lot about being a guest on This Old Marketing. We say we'd love to, but we don't. Now we're going to do. But we want to do it in person.
on
and we're going
stage.
to do it on stage in front.
By the
of
way,
everyone.
they will be in front of people. So if you're stage shy or whatever, just know that if you're triggered by that at all.
But no difficult questions or
no
anything.
hard questions. No, it's going to be
questions. We're just going to have fun.
Silliness. Yeah, it'll be total silliness.
There'll be people drinking alcohol, I'm sure, and so
that's
nobody's really going to see it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be. So go to cex.events, sign up, and you can be a speaker just like BJ Novak. And I'm excited to see him, by the way. He seems
it's
like
going to be
very
great.
Thoughtful person.
Is he?
I mean, from what I've seen of him in interviews, I mean, mostly
right.
I just know him from The Office. I know him from his writing. He's got that wonderful
He's an amazing
book
writer.
out.
He's an amazing writer.
So and that's what he's really going to talk about. He's going to talk about, what his thoughts are as a writer creator and moving forward in AI and all the other stuff that we're going to be covering. So
speaking of which, we've got a big show.
Let's do it. What do we got?
We've got a big show. We're going to talk about our big story for the week, which of course is going to be the wild week that was artificial intelligence. There was a whole ton of stuff that happened while Joe was off getting his suntan, and we're just going to look at all of that kind of stuff. Then we'll pay some bills and we'll get to the rest of the news, of course. And the rest of the news is really about this weird monetization thing that's happening with podcasting right now. And there's a great video that we'll link to in the show notes. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about what might be really going on there. Then we'll get to our new segment, which of course is hits and misses, where we talk about hits in marketing or misses in marketing. And my hit, spoiler alert, is going to be on Paramount Plus and their streaming network. And Joe's going to talk about Nvidia. And I'm going to let you, yes, of course, about what that's going to be. And then, of course, everybody's favorite section, our Rants and Raves section, where we go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave. And I'm going to have some commentary about the New York Times' new ad tool. And Joe, as usual, as he always does, is either going to talk about print marketing and print magazines, or who else? Billy Joel. So I'll let you guess.
Come on. Two. I don't like Billy Joel has only been talked about 3 or 4, 7 times on this show. It has not been excessive. It's not
3,
like
4,
NFL
7.
excessive.
Right. 3, 4, 7, 12, 100. We don't know.
By the way, I have to mention, because we were talking about social media marketing world, I had 7 people come up to me and they just say NFL, or they do NFL. That's it. That's all they do. So I don't know what to tell you there.
TOM. It's in the game. For any of you who are NFL, anyway, that's a video game reference. But okay. Okay. Let's get to our big story, which was, of course, the wild week in AI. And a number of things happened last week, including the fact that OpenAI launched their new video tool, Sora, which isn't really launched to the world. It's really launched to really a red team right now that's going to go through and check things and make sure it's all safe for everybody.
A red team? Is that like the red team in Star Wars? Red team?
A little bit.
Or red...
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Red 7. Yeah. Red 7. Okay.
They're there to make sure things are going to be safe. In the same week, and in fact, on the same day, Google launched their new AI tool, which is now called, I think, Gemini, Sagittarius, Ultra Super Far Out X Plus to the Max. I think, that's the new official product name. Google, of course, with its
rolls off the tongue.
Wonderful. Yeah, it just rolls right off the tongue. It's not available yet because why? Well, their new old kind of solution, which is Gemini, is now available in Google Workspaces, which also was announced last week. Google, right on top of it with their PR release timing. Anyway, we'll talk about all of that, but let's start with an article that comes to us courtesy of The Verge, and it is about OpenAI and Sora, the text-to-video modeling idea. And so, as the article says, OpenAI is launching a new video generation model, and it's called Sora. The AI company says Sora can create realistic and imaginative scenes from text instructions. The text-to-video model allows users to create photorealistic videos up to 1 minute long based on prompts that are written. Sora is capable of creating complex scenes. This is a quote, complex scenes with multiple characters, specific types of motion, and accurate details of the subject and background. The company also notes that the model can understand how objects exist in the real physical world. I'm going to just go ahead and call bullshit on that, as well as accurately interpret props and generate compelling characters that express vibrant emotions. They had a bunch of examples of this on their website and that they're sort of including in articles here. So do you have a take on this? What's your initial impression of text to video in AI?
Did you see Mr. Beast's tweet.
Oh my God, it was so good. It was
Says
so
Sam,
good.
Sam, please
Yeah.
don't make me homeless.
That's
That
right.
was Mr. Beast's tweet, which
Yeah.
which pretty much sums up the entire situation for creators.
Yeah.
Look,
But then did you see Sam Altman replied?
No, I
Sam
didn't.
Altman,
What did Sam
yeah,
say?
so Sam Altman then replies to Mr. Beast and says, "Oh, Mr. Beast, what would you like? What kind of video would you like? I'll make one for you." And Mr. Beast says, "I want a monkey playing chess in a park." And so, a few minutes later, here comes a video of a 1-minute video of a monkey playing chess in the park, and so much. And this is going to get to my take, but I'll let you continue there. It's so much of what is in that video is just so, for me, the quintessential where AI is now in creating content. But I'll talk about that in a second. What were you going to say?
What's scary? It's funny. All my comments start with what scares me the most. I always, whenever I see something like this come out, and if you look at the sample videos that Sora's putting out, I think they're pretty impressive to this date. And that's what I want to explain, where I think about our friend Paul Raitzer. And he always says, remember, whatever you're watching or whatever you're reading, that's AI influence, is the dumbest AI that you'll ever see. Right. And there's already one out there that you haven't seen yet that's 9 months smarter. And I'm going to talk about this later with the Billy Joe video as well.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to fathom. Like, we're in an interesting time frame right now where we're never going to see this thing happen again. We are seeing just a whole new group of beings being able to create this thing. And that's where, if you go back to Andrew Davis's session as well, the way that he frames his is he is training his AI to become a better version of him and things that he doesn't want to do. And, right now it's a little bit of creative back and forth, but it's interesting to where we're going, where if this keeps going, there's a lot of mundane tasks, different kinds of tasks, especially right now, production design tasks that do not need to be done by human beings anymore.
Right. So, but let me make sure that that's clear, because what you just said could be misinterpreted.
Okay.
Because what you just said was he's training AI to be a better version of him. I think it would be better said to say he's training AI so that he can be a better version of himself.
That's how Drew would say it. He can be a better version of himself and not have to do, because basically the whole point of Drew's talk is that he saves so much time on things that he didn't like to do anymore. Right. And he has his digital doppelganger do those things for him.
That's right. And things like, write a script for a promotional video for a talk that he's going to do so he's, as he says in his talk, I'm going to spend 40 minutes creating, a script, or 40, and he said he speaks, 50 to 55 times every year. So if you multiply the number of promotional videos that he does by the number of times he speaks, and 40 minutes to create a new promotional script for each one, it's hours and hours and hours of time savings, right? Just having that done. And then he said, and if you take it to its next level, where he actually shows the not only the script, but basically a digital version of himself giving the promotional video, with lip sync and the whole thing. He can do it in different languages. He can do it, amazing. And it's quite impressive, right? So it's going to save him, again, hours and hours of production time as well. So I think that's really neat. My take on it is, I look at it and I go, I've been having a lot of fun with people posting up their art, mostly imagery stuff, because it's just easier to see. Yeah. And just how, yes, it's impressive. Let me be very clear. The technology here is impressive, but at the same time, it's comical. With even in the Mr. Beast tweet, there was a response to that tweet from an animator, who basically talked about all the things that were wrong with that particular video. And even if you look at their best examples, like the one that everybody's showing is a woman walking through Tokyo at night, and it's beautiful, right, with the Tokyo lights, and it's just rained. It's very Blade Runner sort of looking, with the reflections of the light in the street, and it's lovely. But there's some truly creepy, weird things happening in the background. Like, first of all the people in the background have no faces, right? They're all they're all like out of that Star Trek episode where people can remove their faces. And the other thing is that the guy that's stalking her, there's a guy stalking her in the background, walking behind her with, he's got 2 shoulder bags over the front. I mean, it's weird. Of course, the signs don't say anything. When she turns and her sunglasses, of course, the words don't say anything. I mean, there are real indicators here, either purposely done or not purposely done, that this is an AI generated image. So useful, interesting, right? Artistic, absolutely. Useful, not sure yet. Not sure how useful this particular technology is going to be ultimately. And the whole thing about, there's a whole debate going on in the background with the technology about, some of the AI experts going, this whole claim that it can sense the physical world and that it can, it understands the physics of the real world. I'm not sure about that. Certainly not in the demonstration. I mean, if you look at some of the videos, right, there's one of paper airplanes flying through a forest, and the paper airplanes are flying directly through the tree. I mean, they're literally flying through leaves, right? Magically turning into transporter beams or something. But anyway, it's very impressive technology, but at the same time, I see immediately the limitations of this particular stage of it. And maybe to your point, maybe it's just going to be that way because this is the dumbest we're going to see it, and this is sort of the floppy disk of what AI can truly be.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's limitations now, but there won't be.
There won't be
in the very. I don't see. That's what I think. I believe in the very near future there will not be limitations. That I could take let's say a script. I could take a Hollywood script and say, okay, I'm going to feed this in to Sora or whatever application, and it'll pump out an hour and 30-minute movie. It's pretty darn good. Not great.
When you say soon, how soon do you think soon is?
I think soon is within 2 years.
I think that's no way. I think there's no way of that.
I think that at the way that the exponential learning that this thing is going on, and that we know that what we're seeing right now is at least 9 months, probably more behind, that we know that something is being created. But
maybe.
I think we have no idea of what's happening here, that this is the actual end of the world happening in front of us,
in real
and we're
time.
not paying attention. Yeah, we're not. It's not a big bang.
Yeah,
like, it's just gonna be a slow demise. It is just like a fog of AI around us, and we're not gonna know. Like, I don't even know going into this election. Like, even though the AI powers that be are saying, "Oh no, we're gonna protect the election and we're gonna make sure the content doesn't," it's gonna get nuts. Like, I literally am thinking about, do I need to leave the shores? Like, do I need to be off on a reservation somewhere to protect myself?
Yeah.
Am I going too far with that? I mean,
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I think you're going a little bit too far with that. I think you're going. I mean, you could always, I know you're always looking for an excuse to get on a boat and go cruise around the Caribbean.
I love cruises.
You could just go buy a boat and get on a boat and sail around the Caribbean. And
okay, I'm a little sidebar here, just because I'm so fat. You'll love the technology of this. This is the first time I cruised on a princess cruise.
Okay.
And they give you instead of a card or key card or identification, they give you a little medallion, a little princess medallion. And like, when you get close, you have that medallion on you. When you get close to your room unlocks. So that's pretty cool. Like, you don't have to slide. There's nothing.
Yeah. Well, by the way, that medallion has a locator on it. They know where you are at all times.
That's right? That's exactly right. So they're picking up all kinds. It's definitely big brother. But we actually tried the locator. So we were having a great time. We were down at the pool.
Yeah.
We didn't want to get up because we're lazy and stand in line and go get drinks. And you just order it and say, deliver the drinks to me.
Yeah.
And it comes directly to you because they know where you are. It's really weird and sick, and the whole Big Brother thing, but I got my drink and I didn't have to stand up. So that's what's important.
It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. As you order a drink
amazing.
What do you do that on your phone? Do you do that? Do you
do it in the app? It says deliver to my room or deliver to my location, and it'll say, "Oh, that's me." That's wonderful.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna say
I talked to a lot of people on the. There was Lou Mangello was on. He was doing a review of the princess stuff, and he was saying, "This is so Big Brother, but it's so cool that
now I wonder."
Like, oh, okay.
Do you connect the app to your medallion?
The app is connected to your medallion. Yes.
Okay.
It knows where you are.
Because I wonder if it's the app, actually. It's a little bit like DoorDash, right? Where it's the app that's showing your location rather than the medallion showing your location.
Well, yeah, they're synced up because it knows.
Get a little bit into the weeds here, but
if I open my app, it will tell me where I am.
Gotcha.
Because of my medallion, not because of the phone. But anyways, I digress. Yes.
Well,
I think it's I guess the thing, look, we don't know where this whole AI thing is going to go, but I don't think we can downplay it at all. And because I hear what you're saying. I've seen some of the stuff. We've talked about some of the imagery that's come out of Dolly, and you're like, this is what is this? But I keep hearing that in my head. This is early.
It is early. It is early, and I'm not sure where it's going. It just feels like to me, and I don't know. I have zero data to back this up, so this is all like totally just gut. It feels to me like they're going to hit a ceiling here very quickly, right? In other words, it's that classic, moving the needle from 0 to 60 or 0 to 70 moves very, very quickly. And then you hit a ceiling where moving the needle from 70 to 71 just takes longer and longer and longer. And it's just that incremental levels of improvement just take longer because it's just harder. Something outpaces something where you can't, and this was forever, right? With with regards to chip size, with regard, there was Moore's law and all of those things. But at a certain level, you've got to, the curve starts to flatten. I just have to believe that the curve will start to flatten here for this development as well. So I wonder, they're questions. I think might say, I'm just asking questions.
I think for the marketers and content people in our audience, we talk about events. I mean, you and I go to a lot of events, social media marketing world, content marketing world. We've got CEX, whatever. More and more, these conversations are about AI. These presentations are going on. Like, how do we? And I think if we want to be successful marketers and content creators in the future, we have to understand these tools. You have to spend your 10 to 20% experimental time and get in there, whether you like it or not, and figure this things out. Whether you're going to do what Drew Davis says, so you can free up your time or be more original or work on the good things, or just keep your job.
Yep. Well, and just remember this. I wrote a piece on this. AI is not a strategy. AI is an innovation looking for a strategy. So what you're looking for, and basically everybody at Social Media Marketing World talked about this in varying degree, right? Which is if you start looking for an AI strategy for your company or for yourself, you will not find one. That's like trying to say, what's your telephone strategy, or what's your computing strategy, right? It's not. You have to find whatever your strategy is, your content creation process, your goal, your objective, your direction, and then figure out how the innovation of AI will help facilitate that in a faster, more meaningful way.
I think that's a great point. I think you do need an AI committee of some kind.
Yep.
That has different portions of executive team and marketing and PR and communications and IT that are a group working together and figuring this thing out as a company. That has to happen.
That's right. Well, speaking of that, very quickly here, we'll just cover this very, very quickly because it was, I think this was OpenAI sort of like, trolling Google a little bit, because Google on the very same day launched their Gemini Super Ultra Pro. But the weirdness was that another thing that they'd added literally just this week is, and so their PR timing is just weird here, is this Gemini for Google Workspace. So if any of you use Google Workspace, now you have access to Gemini, which is called Duet AI. Again, with the naming, it's just crazy here. So Duet AI for Google Workspace became Gemini for Google Workspace. Okay, on Wednesday, to complete an update that includes personalized standalone experiences when logged into the Google system. Gemini for Workspace is now available in 2 subscription plans. The Gemini Enterprise add-on that replaces Duet AI for Workspace Enterprise, and the Gemini Business add-on at a lower price that provides access for a company's entire team or organization. Data privacy, of course, is an important part of this announcement, and Google basically has said with the 2 subscription services, it has taken a stand on privacy. With the Gemini Business or the Gemini Enterprise plan, Google ensures that conversations will not be used for advertising purposes, reviewed by human reviewers, or used to train generative machine learning technology. And this comes to us courtesy, by the way, of Media Post, which has a wonderful article on this. I have not tried it yet, but it looks interesting. This is obviously a shot over the bow of Microsoft with their Copilot and integration with Office. So any take on this?
The big are going to get bigger.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any way to stop it. I mean, we when we talked about Microsoft integrating it into Bing and some of the other things that they were doing, you're like, wow, what an advantage Microsoft has, because they already have a user base and this is an add-on component. I just went to check it out because I went into because we're a Google company, if you will, our little company here. And I went in and said, I can turn Google Workspace on. It's like $14 a user a month or whatever. And I can add the whole Google Gemini thing without doing anything else. I'm already using all the tools, and they're just going to AI-ify it, if you will. So, I mean, if you look at, it's true, right? If you're going to bet on leaders, you're going to bet on Microsoft, you're going to bet on Google. OpenAI has this big lead already, but don't count out these other companies because they already have the huge user base. And Google, by the way, is more threatened than any other company out there, because I don't know if you were there when Mike Stelzner asked the audience about how many people are using ChatGPT for search. Were you there during that question? I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Anyways, he asked the question.
I was not. No, I didn't see that.
Okay. So he asked the question. He said, how many people are using something like a ChatGPT versus Google for search? And half the room raised their hands that they were doing that. That is totally disrupting the search business. I didn't expect that.
Of course.
Because you and I have talked about how much wrong information is in that data set right now.
That's right.
It is, and of course on search as well, but it's accentuated, I think, in AI. So that's a concern, and Google's going to be the most aggressive, I think, of any company.
I think it's going to be, I think it's really every day when there's a new announcement from Google, Microsoft, or OpenAI, I just have to imagine that these startups, so many of them are going, damn it. I mean, it's just, it's just another, truly it's going to get really consolidated quickly, I think. I think to your point.
I agree.
Well, speaking of consolidated, speaking of getting bigger, because we are big and we are getting bigger. And the reason that we're getting bigger is because we can pay a few bills. Should we pay a couple of bills here?
I think we have to.
All right. Alley-oops don't happen without team chemistry, and your leads go nowhere if you aren't on the same page with sales. Yeah, I get it. And HubSpot, they get it too. That's why they created Sales Hub. It's an all-in-one platform built with all the tools you need for your team's success. Smarter prospecting? Check. Faster revenue? Yep. Scales with you? Yeah, it sure does. You ready to help your sales team reach an all-star selling status? Head to HubSpot.com/sales to try Sales Hub for free. Want a new podcast for your 2024 listening? Well, we can make that happen. In fact, why don't you try Make It Happen Monday, hosted by John Barrows. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Make It Happen Monday offers actionable sales tips to close more business and interviews industry leaders. Host John Barrows includes his insight as a leading B2B sales trainer and founder of J. Barrows Consulting. One recent episode I loved featured Jason Tan, a B2B expert in AI and the founder of Engage AI. Check it out. Make It Happen Monday, wherever you get your favorite pods.
I was all hyped up because of this AI talk, but then I listened to that beautiful music you put together. Now I'm at peace. Whatever happens, whenever the robots take over,
there it is.
I will be at peace.
You will be at peace.
That's all you can do. There's nothing we can do about it. We've let it's
as the famous as the famous Clayton Christensen quote goes, "You might hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care."
That's a great quote.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, what do we got?
So we're going to talk about, this is the rest of the news, and there was a lot to cover, but for the sake of time, we're going to focus in on one thing, which was our good friend and family of the show, Nick Ogle. He sent over this link to this YouTube video and had us both watch it. And it's from this YouTuber named James Smith. And if you haven't seen James Smith, I didn't know about this guy either. and watched a few of his videos, and he's very profane. He's an English guy, very profane, but I found him very funny and charming. And for some of the videos that he put out, and his thing is to debunk a lot of the stuff that you see on TikTok, a lot of the stuff that, the claims, the sort of, hucksters that are out there. And he talks a lot about that. And interestingly, the video that Nick had sent over to us was him talking about podcasting and how there was so much misinformation getting spread on podcasting. And he talked about this idea of, in the video, talks about this idea of how, like, guests on Joe Rogan or guests on other commercial podcasts, and he uses Joe Rogan a lot for the obvious reason, because Joe is a big podcaster, are part of the monetization scheme, right? So you end up having this situation where there are sponsors of the show, and then there are guests who are somehow tied to the sponsors of the show and basically pull in. And it's all basically built around this business of misinformation and getting clicks and getting views, and sort of this sort of vicious cycle where you put out something that's worth hate watching, right? Because you just want to see how ridiculous it's going to be. And that becomes the reason to have a guest that's really hard or really full of misinformation or says outrageous things, so that you build this viewership that can then sell more sponsorships, which then feeds more guests, and so on and so forth. And it's sort of this ongoing machine that he talks about. And he talks about how we've really lost the game when it comes to great content quality on podcasts, especially because of this sort of monetization scheme with and how guests fit into that. I definitely have a take on this, but would love to get yours, given it's about a content creator idea and how monetization happens. But so what do you think about this?
Well, what I've learned was that he's basically saying shows that have no guests are superior.
There you go. There you go.
It's funny. I talked to somebody the other day about, hey, should I find a good co-host, or should I do a Q&A guest that everybody else does? And I said, hey, if you have a co-host and you have a good repertoire with that, good feel, good vibe with the other person, it's a heck of a lot easier, because you and I don't have to schedule around any guests. We just have to schedule around each other. And we're done. We pretty much do it at the same time every week, and it works out really, really well. And we like each other. We're friends, and we would probably talk about this stuff anyways, and we just hit record. So that's wonderful. I see the point. Is it James, the podcaster, James Smith?
James, James Smith is his name. Yeah.
So yeah, it's super interesting. I watched it a couple times just to get a feel, and it's almost like these big podcasts that are getting most of the watches out there are trying to one up each other with controversy.
Yep, that's right.
And they're being incentivized to bring on people that have misinformation because it's the most controversial. And if you go back into some of these guests that they have, and you look and you're like, okay, this one's saying this, but this one's saying something different. This one's saying something completely different. And they're not based in any research or fact. It's just somebody's expert's opinion. And you're like, now it really does make sense why a lot of this information gets out there, because you've got 10 or 15 of the biggest podcasts in the world just spreading out information that is not necessarily 100% correct.
Yeah.
And they're incentivized to do that because they get more money, get more watches, anything more controversial. I mean, you and I have had a couple episodes where we talk about some controversial stuff, and those are the biggest hits.
Yeah,
they are.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, here's what I think. I think this is one of those things where it was inevitable, right? This is an inevitability that was going to happen. And what I mean by that is that, look, the model here is not new. This model is at its core, at its very core, is actually a good model that has been had since, well, let's go back to the Tonight Show, right? I mean, all the way back to sort of talk shows of the 50s, the 60s, into the 70s, 80s, 90s, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is you bring guests onto a show because that's why people tune into the show, is to see whoever you're going to have as a guest. And they say crazy stuff. They do fun things. They do entertaining things. And so, for the Tonight Show, or for Late Night with David Letterman, or for
Andy Kaufman, you think about, right?
They think about all those things. Their whole goal, their shtick, was to bring on celebrities so that they could promote, hey, tonight we're going to have Andy Kaufman on, or tonight we're going to have, John Wayne, or tonight we're going to have Elizabeth Taylor, or tonight we're going to have, Jerry Seinfeld, whoever it was, right? They're bringing on these guests who you're like, ooh, I love that guy, or I love that woman. Ooh, I love that person. I'm going to come and tune in for that. And so what ends up happening is as we start to democratize media, and there are more and more and more channels, and more and more competition, and more things, you can see the inevitability having to happen, because it's not just about who you have on, but it's about what they're going to say. Right. And so you can see it even in the talk show, in sort of whether it's podcasting, whether it's television, whether it's anything. It's not just who's on, but what is it that they stand for or say. You'll never believe what this star said at the 1 minute mark, right? And so that becomes the way to pierce the noise of all of the things that are out there that are competing with you. And then you get to a status where there's a have and have nots, right? So somebody like Joe Rogan, big shows are going to get the big controversial people, because their audience will not only tolerate it, but they'll also feed into it. And the guest wants to be there, because that's the key. So even going back to the talk show days, it was all about, does the guest want to be on, right? So in other words, it's called the get, right? Where, if you're Johnny Carson, you're going to get John Wayne, or you're going to get a big star. If you're a small little local talk show on TV, you're not going to get a big star. So the bigger you are, the bigger star you can get, the more provocative they can be. And it's a machine that feeds in on itself. So the monetization model here is nothing new. What's new is how we've crossed a line into what truth and misinformation and distrust is, that is feeding the frenzy of saying, not only am I going to watch because I'm entertained, but I'm going to hate watch because it's so ridiculous, or it's so controversial, or it's so provocative. And that seems, that's the, all publicity is good publicity idea, where it, if you're really just after clicks and views and being provocative, you can do that, but at the risk of what? At the risk of becoming ridiculous, right? The big risk of becoming, in the television world, the risk of becoming Maury Povich, or in the risk of Joe Rogan, and if you want to live with that brand, you live and die with that brand, right? But if you don't, you've got to create trust with your audiences.
Well, when there were minimal channels, you had standards, and
that's right.
There were regulators that could watch
Exactly.
those. I mean, if you watch Private Parts from Howard Stern, you'll see that they were on him all the time until he moved to Sirius XM, and then he could do whatever he wanted to. And there's no regulation. You can I talk about the content tilt, the differentiation point all the time. I hate to say it, but the best way to go is super controversial. You go down that controversy rabbit hole, and you're much more likely to break out than if you're just talking about something that is not.
Well, that's
that's scary.
Right. And that's Section 230, right? That's the Section 2 for here in the US anyway. That's Section 230, the social media immunity law, where basically on a social media platform, and that includes podcasting, by the way, you can pretty much say whatever the hell you want, right? Yeah. On television, on broadcast TV, no. You cannot say whatever the hell you want. And that's a real big question that Congress is going to have to figure out, because that's, that level of misinformation across networks, whether it's Facebook, Spotify, X, whatever, has to get sorted out if misinformation and sort of all of this stuff that's happening now is going to get figured out.
I don't know if I'm not confident that that's going to happen.
I'm not either.
I think people will continue to choose their realities with I chose apparently that I wasn't getting information on Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Right.
I'm very disappointed by that.
Yeah. Well, that's the algorithm. That's the algorithm working against you right there, is that you don't discover new things. You basically see the echo chamber of what it is it's basically optimized to keep you optimized into what has kept you interested. It doesn't surprise and delight you. And that's
because I watch a lot of NBA clips, and I don't watch a lot of WNBA. I bet you if I was watching WNBA, I would have been seeing Caitlin Clark.
WNBA. All right. Let's move along here to our hits and misses segment, where we'll quickly go through a winner and a loser from the last week or so, because of course we were off last week with Joe and his wonderful vacation. So last week or so, hits or misses, bigger winner, bigger loser in the marketing world. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
I'll go quickly. You have to go with Nvidia for the win. Nvidia released their results as we are speaking. They released them today. 265% increase in revenue. They went from something like $1 billion to $12 billion in profit for the quarter. The demand for AI chips is booming, and Nvidia owns 80% of that market. Now there is some talk about Sam Altman competitor and some other competitors that are going to be competing with Nvidia, but right now they are. I've never seen, Robert, a company this mature, this old, that grows this quickly.
76% gross margin. 76% gross margin.
And the reason I'm bringing it up is not because, hey, if you own the Nvidia stock, then you're feeling pretty good about yourself. It's
I do. I feel very good about myself.
Yeah, and
right
I do
now.
too. I do as well. And I have for a while. So we're all happy about that. But I think the fact is that we're seeing this demand. You and I just talked a little bit about, what's 9 months, what's 12 months, what's 15 months away. They're beefing up the technology. The chips are there, and we're going to be able to see some programming possibilities that weren't happening before, just because the tech didn't catch up yet. It seems like Nvidia is getting there, and because of that, that's why you're seeing so much competition flow to that area right now.
Yep. And by the way, just as a side note, they've avoided the same mistake that Intel made and that others in the chip business made. Remember, Nvidia doesn't actually manufacture chips. All of that is outsourced for them. There's no manufacturing facilities that they design and basically create all of the technology for it, but they don't actually.
Their gross margins are so high.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Really incredible. And I'm surprised that Apple hasn't gone further down that path. I know they do their own chips and things, but it surprises me that they didn't see this one coming, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think they did, but they're looking at. I mean, there was some questions about Apple acquiring somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but it was they were going to acquire somebody in this space, and I think it's the same kind of thing. I mean, but it's a very specialized chip, right? This is the reason they're doing so well is AI here, right? I mean, the AI and the compute. The needs for compute are high, and only getting more thirsty. So yeah, I think this has got a long runway. Yeah.
So what's up with Paramount?
Paramount. Well, okay. So Paramount had their Super Bowl, right? So you could actually watch it on Paramount streaming. You could, of course, it was on CBS, which of course is owned by Paramount, and it's all one big happy family there. So Paramount has a huge hit, most watched telecast of all time, breaking last year's Super Bowl record. So it's the most watched telecast of all time. Huge success. And then literally a week later, they lay off 800 employees. Now, I'm sure that was in the works. You just don't lay off 800 employees without that being a months-long process. But from a marketing and communication standpoint, from a corporate communication standpoint, just stupid. I can't imagine somebody sitting in a meeting and going, I know, let's make the announcement that we're laying off 800 people the week after we had the biggest success of our company's existence. And it's just an amazingly huge lack of awareness from a communication strategy to do this, because and I get it, right? These things are you can't sort of, they have to be. I mean, it's not like you can delay the announcement when you've actually done the layoffs, but to not be in alignment with this is just a complete miss in my mind of where corporate comms and the rest of the organization that's doing things are. And I'm sure it wasn't corporate comms' decision, right? I mean, sure, if somebody in corporate communications is going, what are you going to do? I can't delay the announcement when we're doing this thing, and nobody let me. It's just a crazy bad miss.
It almost feels like a lot of this surge in technology and AI and other things that are going on, that chief executives are paying attention to. I think some of the eye is off the ball, if you will, with corporate communications and internal PR, and these silly little mistakes seem to happen more and more, right? They're not well thought out as part of the internal. And we've talked about it before, like before you market externally to any customers or prospects, you want to focus on your internal marketing. That is the most important thing. Internal communications is the most important thing you can do as an organization.
Did you see the Zuckerberg video that went a little viral of him sort of throwing the Apple Vision Pro under the bus?
All I saw was that he thought that his Oculus was better.
Shocking there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but you know,
but I didn't know what specifically happened with that.
Yeah, it's just an interesting corollary here of Meta obviously doing something in communications and making a decision, either driven by Zuckerberg or driven by the corp comms or the marketing team, to say, hey, listen, let's do a fun video of you sort of breaking down the Apple Vision Pro and everything that's got going on with it and critiquing it and basically comparing it. To me, it very much came across as defensive. It came across, it wasn't, to me, it was a wrong move. And I know a lot of people disagree with that, but to me, it was a wrong move because it basically validates what Apple is doing in the space and basically saying, oh, by the way, we're here too. And we've got better stuff. We promise. It's sort of the Avis tries harder sort of thing. We're number two and we're proud of it. So it shows that they're worried about it. And to me, it was a wrong move, but a lot of people might disagree with that.
I don't know if Zuckerberg has a formal strategy.
No, well, I'm not sure.
This.
It's like Google and their naming strategies.
Nor does he have to, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're making that much money, there's a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
It is a bit disconcerting when you look at the big 7 companies and how much money they are making right now.
Right.
We've never seen anything like this. You can go back 100 years, the percentage, maybe back to the oil baron days.
Yeah.
But this is very hard to see this type of inequity when it comes to 7 companies.
It is indeed.
And the profit that they're taking in.
It is indeed. So. All right. Let's get to our last segment here, which of course is our rants and raves section, where we go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, I guess it makes us feel like we've just listened to Beyonce, right? Beyonce, a little hoedown. The song is so good. The song is so good. I love
after this episode, I'm gonna have to listen to it again.
It's so good. Listen to the whole thing. It's really great.
I will.
It's very catchy. Very, very catchy tune. Anyway, so let's see. Rants and raves. You want to go first, or my commentary? Or
why don't you go? You do your commentary.
I'll go first. Fantastic news. Okay, so let's look at AI again very quickly here. So this comes to us courtesy of Axios, the news article that we'll link to in the show notes anyway. And it's basically that the New York Times, which we've talked about many times as one of the more successful publishing models out there, they will debut a new generative AI ad tool this year. What does that mean? Well, apparently, sort of according to Axios, the New York Times is recruiting partners to test this new ad targeting solution using generative AI beginning next quarter, said executives. It plans to make the new tool widely available to marketers in the second half of this year, meaning 2024. And why that matters, says Axios, is that they started working on these efforts long before they filed their big lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft for the copyright infringement thing that they're working on. But basically, says the chief advertising officer, someone named Joy Robbins, that this obviously demonstrates, they say, what we believe Gen AI is an enabler and can be something that is effective for our businesses when used responsibly, which absolutely says nothing. Basically, the tool, as I understand it and read the description, is going to be basically, they're going to use multiple large language models, which think of, like a ChatGPT, and using the internet as its language model. But basically, I'm assuming that they're going to use some level of the corpus of the New York Times as their large language model, and basically give you the idea of optimizing your ad buy using that. So it's sort of like, and it's not creating content necessarily, as I understand it. It's basically looking at the way that it's going to organize where you should place your advertising. It's an automatic placement of advertising, not necessarily a creation of the advertising itself. This, to me, is probably going to be a miss. I mean, I love that. In fact, I mean, look, it's using AI, I'm sure, to get everybody excited and the marketing behind it. You don't need AI to do that. AI might make it better. I don't know. We'll have to see it in action when it happens. But to me, the more interesting version of what programmatic advertising or automated placement would not be the placement of ads within the context of news stories, but rather to combine the first party data of the audience that you have with the corpus of the context of the article that they're looking at, and have generative AI actually develop a call to action ad on the fly. In other words, the ad that I get when I go to an article about the Wall Street, what's happening on Wall Street in the business book section of the New York Times, is a different ad than you, Joe, would get, right? So it would do something using our the data that they have on us, what we like, what we resonate with, what we do, and versus their the context of the actual article that we're looking at, and thus have personalized ads that you can actually converse with, that you could actually, imagine a banner ad that sort of talks to you, Joe, and says, hey, by the way, here's something that's really interesting. Maybe you want to take a vacation. Maybe you want to open an account with Schwab. Maybe you want to, whatever it is,
Sure.
sort of puts in the ad in there, and it knows something about you based on your history. And you can actually type in there, what do you mean? What do you got for me? And then it gives you a personalized offer based on that sort of thing. That's the interesting ad tool that I'm waiting for, that I think would be really interesting. Basically, conversing and talking with advertising, paid media, not just sort of placement of ads. So we'll see. We'll see maybe if it goes there or not. But this to me is like, meh, I don't care. But if it turns into something like what I just talked about, well, now we're talking about something interesting.
I always thought that that point in the Minority Report with Tom Cruise would be so far off. Like, I would never see that in my lifetime, where he goes up to the Gap and he can see himself and he's talking to the. Now I'm pretty sure that that's like what you just said. Seems like, why don't we do that?
Yeah,
It's
that's
altogether feasible.
That's
you
right.
have the data set. You have all my data. You know exactly. Like Princess knows exactly where I'm going, wherever
That's
I spend
right.
my time. They can sculpt anything, and I can talk. They've got all the data to have a conversation with me.
A relevant
They can
conversation.
choose a
with you.
voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. It kind of leads in again. This seems like another AI episode. Have you watched the Billy Joel video that he has out
For the new song? No.
for the
I
new
have
song?
not. I have.
You
not.
have not watched it.
I have not watched it.
So Billy Joel has a new song that he put out. Turn the Lights Back On is the name of the song. It's a really good standard Billy Joel. Like, I think it's a fan service song. I think it's a fan service. I think if you're a fan of Billy Joel, okay, whatever. A lot of people that are fans really like it. The video itself basically starts with Billy in the 70s, and it's Billy Joel singing the song as he is in the 70s. It goes through the 80s and it goes through the 90s.
I'll go look at that. That sounds interesting.
It's pretty incredible. Now, can you tell a little bit that it's not Billy? A little bit, but it's so close that you forgive it. You actually think that you are watching Billy sing that song through.
It's not Robert De Niro in The Irishman bad, but it's probably one level up from that.
Well, first
Indiana Jones in the last movie.
It's closer to that, but it's pretty darn good. And then they show the real images of Billy at the end of the video, and you're like, oh yeah, that's really close to. And then he ends with it's Billy Joel at age 74. Yeah, and I mean, I've watched it several times and I'm amazed by it. And I try to pick up new things every time, but this is, I think, what's coming. And I want to get your take and see if you agree with me.
I do. I agree 100%. I agree that this is actors. I mean, this is what the actor strike was all about, right? I mean, in so many ways was that once I have once we have you right on film, we can, there's a thing in movies called ADR, right? Where you go back and you when they couldn't get right sound, or there was too noisy of a place, like if you're filming in front of an airport or something and you're trying to have a conversation, or on a street or something like that, they often have to do what's called ADR, which is basically, or called looping, where you come in as an actor and you watch yourself on the screen and you sort of match what you do in a studio, and it gives you a nice sound, right, for the voice. They don't need to do that anymore. They basically can take your voice, duplicate it, and basically put you up there and have they don't even need you to act it out, right?
Yeah.
They just basically have you. They say, we'll do that, and we'll do that in post, right? And it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch.
Well, if you talk about what Andrew Davis did at the event, where he has it all set up and said, "Hey, do this promo video," he had the AI do the video in English that looked like we know Drew, and we knew that was not Drew, but nobody else would know like that's Drew. And then he spoke Norwegian and did that whole one, and you're like, oh my god, like this, what the heck is going on? Here's what I think is going to happen. I think in the next year or two, Elvis is going to come out with a new album.
Okay,
you're going to have in 5 years, you're going to have the Beatles come out. You're going to have. So these things I think are going to happen because the estates are going to own their name, image, likeness rights, and they're going to be able to put this out. They say, hey, here's Elvis's voice. What would Elvis, and I'm trying to think of, for you and I, like, what do I need to do as a content creator now? Do I want to just protect against this, or do I want to lean into it and where I can, this is really crazy stuff and it might be totally stupid, but I could say, okay, I'm well enough known now that I can keep this going for another 50 years and I can keep creating content even when I'm gone.
Yep.
It seems silly, right? But it's happening. And when that's what I thought of when I saw the Billy Joel song. I'm like, Billy didn't need to be alive to do that.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. In fact, they didn't need him at all. Probably.
They didn't need Billy Joel at all to do that. And then you're like, oh my God. So what does this mean for?
They didn't even need him really to, other than the fact that he wrote the song, they didn't really even need him to do the original vocal, right? They could have had the old Billy Joel do it. They could have duplicated
because you have enough. Yeah, because you have enough. I mean, if you go to a company, not just 11 Labs, but 11 Labs is one of those, right? 11 Labs is one of those companies that you can feed in your voice and you can get an output. And I've done a little testing with mine, and I'm like, most of it's pretty good. Most of it, except I don't get like really excited or really low. Sometimes I sort of keep it even keel, but I'm sure that could change.
Same with mine. Yeah. Go listen to mine. I, as I've said on the show before, I did that deal with CMI and that company, and I'm forgetting their name right now, but every blog post I write for CMI now has my artificial voice reading the blog post, which if you don't know me, sounds a lot like me. If you do know me, it's close, but you can tell.
Okay, so here I'm going to end on this. This is not a marketing thing. This is a safety thing. Make sure you and your family, with whatever happens, have a safe word.
That's right.
You need a safe word because this is starting to happen more and more. I actually know somebody that they called their mom and said, it was their voice and whatever, and knew enough information. It's really scary. So you have to make sure you have that safe word. Say, okay, what's the safe word? I don't know.
Yeah, my wife and I have one with questions. Right, there are a number of questions that we're going to ask each other that we both know the answer to that nobody else in the world knows the answer to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I don't know if this is a positive episode or not.
This is a positive, totally positive episode. It's fun. You just get all grumpy about the end of the world. That's the end of the world's coming. And we just you just got to party like it's 1999, my friend. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, right. That you've changed my mind. I'm going to be positive now. Thank you.
There you go. Yep. All right, what do you got this week? You sticking around home? What's going
on? I'm actually going to go to spring training with my youngest.
Oh, that's so fantastic.
We're going to catch some Guardians games, and we got a friend there that I'm going to see. I'm very excited, and he's very excited. He's really into baseball now, and so we're going to have some fun doing that. How about you?
I am home this weekend. I was traveling last week for some family things. And then, of course, I had Social Media Marketing World, so I'm a little behind on correspondence and stuff like that, and creating some content that I want to create. And so I'm going to spend the weekend doing some content creation. And by the way, just being home and being with my lovely wife and sort of hanging out and doing things. And then, it's work, back to work.
Sounds wonderful. So you can get that AI, if you can't spend all that
I am going to play around
wife,
with that. I actually learned quite a bit from Drew's presentation on how to use ChatGPT better. So I am actually going to play around a little bit with that and start to build a little bit of a more personalized agent than I have now.
Then if we really do a good job, maybe we actually don't have to show up for our episodes. And
I would never not do that. I love my audience too much. That this audience is too good to us to show up as
could
AI
happen.
doppelgangers.
Could be possible. I want to see if they could tell. I don't know if they can.
All
Okay.
right.
Anyway.
Let's get out of here. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate you. And just remember, until we see you next week, and we will see you again next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.